black stars. So, I want to talk to you about the idea of exploring techniques, exploring ideas, exploring tactics and options. Now, you have to understand there's a process to this. There's a construction process, really an architecture and engineering process, then a construction process. And then, really, as you're going to find that you're going through a debugging process even. And it's just the way it goes. So first you're going to find you come up with an idea. You know, I'm dealing with an attack this way or a circumstance that way. These are the options I see. What do we do? All right, you do that. And you and your training partners mull it over and play with it. Maybe you show it to somebody else. Get some input there. And you begin the architecture process. What options are available to me? Sky's the limit. Do anything and everything. What are my options? And then once you kind of feel like you've exhausted your options, start repping it. Start practicing those ideas until you either hit a wall or you come up with something new. Then, once you do that, it's good to actually find another source of input. You know, find another training partner or, you know, a rival or whatever, and try it on them. Don't even really explain what you're doing. Just say, hey, I got this new technique I want to show you. Set up this way, and I'll do the technique. Let them do what they do normally, dealing with the technique, and it can show you where you may have had some holes that you didn't realize. So what you're dealing with is you're building the structure of the idea first, because making yourself move is really, it's the easy part and is the most important part, because if you can't make something structurally feasible within yourself, it doesn't really matter how good your tactics are, because if it falls apart in your own hands, it's certainly going to fall apart facing somebody else. So you got to figure out how you're going to move with it in the first place. But then you have to start thinking tactically. What can they do? First, you're going to want to know how they can block your attempts or foil your attempts. Then you're going to want to know how they can counter your attempts. These are important things to look at. You can say, well, the structure's there, and if I tweak this joint that way, and you're open in this spot, I can punch you in the ovary. Well, that's great, but how many places are you open for them to counter? These are important things that you may be overlooking in your engineering sessions, and it takes that additional set of eyes, the construction crew, the foreman or whatever, to come in and say, hey, well, that's a great idea, but in the real world, you're going to be dealing with these circumstances and you kind of forgot about it. This is an important thing to think about. So you've really got to go through this process of construction, debugging. It's really, you know, actually using the construction analogy is kind of poor. It's more like writing a computer program. You know, you write code, the architecture works, then you figure out how you can refine it, make it more user-friendly. And then as time goes on, you see things that work, see things that don't work, features that are not being used, features that could be used, you know, measuring appropriate risk and reward, and then you adapt it over and over and over again. But oftentimes it takes more than just you and your training partner. Sometimes it takes you and your training partner and an additional training partner and somebody who's been doing, you know, in the game longer than you, somebody from a different style, somebody from no style at all, because they feed you different input. You know, you got to think in terms of chaos variables. Chaos variables are everywhere, and every circumstance you enter into is going to be different from the last. You could set a room up exactly the same, and I guarantee you something is different. Guaranteed. Because it's just the way the universe works. And some things are measurably, noticeably different and will be extremely off-putting to your game. And other things will be fundamentally negligible. They may change things in an imperceptible way. But the fact is that when you're playing around, when you're exploring, it's important to get an extra set of eyes, an extra pair of hands, to go through what you're going through with them, because sometimes you get too deep into your own work and it's hard to step back and say, hey, I didn't even think of that angle. It's because you were so deep into it and you got into one set pattern. So just consider that, and I will talk to you guys later. Good journey.